degree in Architecture and Urbanism from the Federal University of Bahia, a master's degree in Geography from the University of Brasilia, and a PhD in Spatial Information from the University of Sao Paulo, with an intercalated year at Louisiana State University. Her work focuses on the use of remote sensing to identify urban elements and patterns associated with leptospirosis occurrence in the challenging urban landscape of Salvador, Brazil. Currently, she is a professor at the Department of Transport and Geodesy Engineering, while she fulfills the role of tutor for the youth mappers at UFBA chapter and leads the cartography and GIS lab at the Polytechnic School of the Federal University at Bahia. Today, she is about to share with us a unique perspective on the city of Salvador. Please, let's give an encouraging applause.
Thank you. That's kind of weird to talk in the microphone, but anyways. So yeah, I have this presentation about me. That's a lot, but that's a lot that I've been doing since my undergrad. So kind of some white hair over here. But it's very nice to be here today with you guys. It was very interesting, the topic that you'll be working during the conference. And first time I got in contact, a friend that is going to be presenting here during the conference. She'll be for sure going deeper in some of the things that I'm going to say. But I think today the idea is to chat a little bit about Salvador and take a look of a city. I'm not a person that study and has a background on complex systems, okay? So please forgive me for any weird and awkward thing that I might say. Then please also correct me if it's something that, oh, this might be not in the right direction. But I'm more about talking about the complexity of the city of Salvador. And I believe that I know a little bit since I'm living here, since I'm really little. I'm studying about Salvador, doing my bachelor, doing my master, doing my PhD. So, and now as a professor also having Salvador as the background of most of my studies. So that's what I'm thinking about sharing with you guys. And also bringing a perspective while you're here in the city, which is very nice to, catch your eyes on things that maybe you wouldn't be able to see if we didn't have this talk, talking the behind scenes. So yeah, that's a lot. So let me see here. So talking a little bit about Salvador, I don't know, did you guys have a chance to walk around the city? Who's from Salvador? Is there anyone from Salvador here? Okay, so you might be able to help me. But did anybody else knew Salvador before, was here before? One person? You're from Brazil? Okay. So it might be useful, but who else have been in Brazil before? Okay, where are you from? Puerto Rico, all right. But for everyone else, it's the first time in Brazil. All right. Okay, so as you might be being told or know about, it's a lot of things. That's a lot. It's a huge country. And if we talk about Salvador, doesn't mean that we're talking about Brazil. Okay, that's first thing to say. It's about a city that was here. Oh, this is my first. Oh, okay. Actually, there's a city that is supposedly started in the 1500 when the Portuguese somehow lost themselves and got here in the south of Bahia, which is our state, and went up looking for a place that could be a nice place to stay and to start their colonization. But they were not the first, of course. There were people already here before them. And we, of course, also those populations were not constrained on these areas. They were all over. But we could say that here you have predominantly people from Tupi-Guarani nation, and you have like the Cariri here, and you have also very close the other one would be other groups, indigenous. And when they come with these big fruits and boats, bringing lots of African people as slaves, but very strong people that were here, sometimes kings, and then arrived in this city. Why is that coming? There you go. Arrived here, coming up from south, right? And searching for a nice place to stay. And then when they found here, well, I believe you have tomorrow a tour or something. Is that right? In the program? So you sure you go there if you have not seen this. It's a fort. We call Farol da Barra because of the lighthouse. But first, the lighthouse came after. First of all, we had the fort. This was the first fort of the Americas. And this here is right here in this edge. Can you imagine how nice this is for a person that wants to build a new empire and have these very, very calm waters in the Bahia de Todos os Santos, you see, very nice. And also, we have this kind of formation, which is a geological fall, where when you will go walk in the Lacerda elevator, you see the huge difference between the lower city and the higher city. And then you see this is like a natural fort. So they found up here, and that's great. And of course, they had an extra forts to defend these areas. So those are all forts that were built. And we have this kind of scene, if you think of the early 1600, right, when the Netherlands and the fruits from Holland came and occupied also for a while the city of Salvador. But it was really hard to get in here because it's a natural fort and all the other forts that were around. See, this is, oh, wow, that's nice. This is, oh, now what? What did I do? Okay. Oh, I like that. Look, this is the elevator, Lacerda elevator. Oh, this is nice. Okay, but I'm enjoying this. Eu tô gostando. Just a second. Just a second, I'll go back. So this is the elevator. Then you see over there the new municipality building, and then the old one over here. It's very at the center of the city, on the old part of the city. And this direction on the top, you see the Pelourinho and all the old city too. And then from there, you see new parts of the city, like this. This is easier to understand how we are now and how we got. When I'm going through all this, if I'm explaining complexity, there's no way to explain who we are if we don't look behind from who we come from, where we come from, right? So I saw some people, they were like, what kind of complexities you like? Cities is one of them. People, human, is one of them. So mobility is another thing that I'm going to talk a little bit. But how do we get there? And then that's how we start, right? We started here. Can you recognize this shape? So look how different that is. So Salvador is very unique. We have this bottom here with the fort, and then we start building in the old city around here. And then for 450 years, almost, we're there, right? That's the main occupation. I mean, construction, doesn't mean that there are not people around and have like quilombolas, we have indigenous, so that's they are around, but I'm talking about the formal infrastructure of an urban settlement, as we know. And then we have these, okay, now I probably want to go back to that thing. Yeah, there you go. So here we have Salvador starting in this area, which is like the old city. It's also how we call today, like the old center, and the old commercial center is also here. And for 400 years and more, we are there. And then all of a sudden, in what do you say here, like less than 100 years, we grew all that. We grew all that because there's a lot of people coming from the countryside of Bahia, of Brazil, and the urbanization, industrialization, and then how can we get all these people that were occupying all these areas, that those areas in the beginning having some problem with this. Now it's not showing. There you go. So the people that were here, and then now we have more people occupying other areas. So those are mainly, this is Itapuã. We are here, somewhere here, okay, close to the Atlantic Ocean, right? So then we have like Itapuã, and we have like Rio Vermelho, and other areas where mainly fishermen were occupied, and also in the north, it's in Subúrbio Ferroviário, we say. And then it grew in the 70s, 90s, 80s, 90s, 2010. You have most of what we call the municipality of Salvador already occupied, but it's not only the municipality of Salvador. There's a lot more in here, but this map doesn't show. It was a presentation in the Department of Mobility, so it didn't show the other municipalities that are conjugated with this. So, but also it's very interesting to understand this formation also. So we are coming from history, talking about how people were here, why they're here, how they occupy. Remember, they occupy the higher areas, and that kind of idea of a better place to be and to be living at also was related to being in the higher area. The lower parts were, and people, you might agree with me, the lower part is like where you throw the garbage, where you throw the sewage, is where it's not very fresh. Maybe it's not, it's harder. So you build and you kind of planify a little bit more the higher area, and the rest goes in the bottom. But we also had this part of the city, which is kind of lower, but it's closer to the ocean and to the beaches. And it was like the previous occupation from the fishermen and all that. And in some sort of way, for the market and immobiliary, and also started to rise as a higher standard area. So you have more income families living in by the ocean area. So if you go across here, the ocean, you see very nice Salvador touristic area. If you go to the valleys, you might see some kind of urbanization that is also, let me see another slide. I don't know if you can see very well, but anyways, so if you in the top, this is like a level curves. So in the top, you have a little bit better constructed areas, and then, for example, in this picture here, very small drawing, and then you also afterwards you get occupying the lower areas. We also have some constructions in Salvador, which is the valley avenues that afterwards also urbanized some of these valleys. So it's a little bit more infrastructured, sometimes they're newer or commercial areas. But some other valleys were behind and were not the center of attention, and were not and the government were not able or capable of keep track of all these occupation. It was very hard to provide decent housing, decent sewage, decent water supply, decent mobility to all these people that came all of a sudden to here. Okay, so this is the kind of situation that we might find some places, and for example, and you might have very high streets, and also some places that you might see uh, the poverty or the lack of a structure. So this builds a very, very complex system already, right? The way it's occupied, the way it is, the shape of the city, because it starts from here, and there's no many places to grow from, right? You just can go northeast, right? And that's how we did. And then is a vector of development in this direction, more rich vector, and also a lot of places here that were not occupied because of the construction sector, where holding the terrains, so it grows up the price of it, so they can build later. So that's the kind of thing that happened here. While lots of people needed the housing, were occupying these other side and these other vector of expansion. So that's mainly what happened, and that ended up 2008. As a research of a professor in architecture, she was estimating that more than 30% of the people in the municipality of Salvador would be living in precarious or insufficient patterns of living and housing. So, but at the same time, you have this kind of thing, right? Very dense occupation, low patterns, and difficult around here, and a very high income around. How can you go around here also, if we talk about this city that's so steep, there's so many hills? It's also an other point. Sometimes we get mobility plans and models, and there's no way not to consider the difference of heights and how you go to a place, because you need to know how hard it is to go from from there to there. If it's straight, it's one thing. If I have to climb 200 steps to go there, that's a totally different thing. I'm going to think twice, 3, 4 times if I want to go there. So that makes a lot of difference, and makes a lot of difference thinking about the city, solving the city problems, and thinking about how to plan, where do you want to go, how do we go there, how to fix what is behind, and how to get better for the future, what is coming. So that's how we. Should I point to this direction? There you go. So, okay, so this is not only about Salvador, of course. There's different configurations around the world that is like this. So what we call slums, and here we say favela, for example. And there's more than 1 billion people in the world that lives in this kind of situation. There's more than 80% of those are in the north, in the south, global south. But the poverty expresses itself in different ways also. Of course, if you have more money to deal with it, the infrastructure might not be that bad, but you do have other kind of problems. It doesn't mean that because it's not as eminent, like very infrastructure needs in the poor housing in US doesn't mean that you do not have to look at it. There's a lot of problems behind that. And if there is anyone from US, you probably know about that. And from Japan also, but you're different. That's different things. different needs, different backgrounds, lots of problems also in UK. I was there in the beginning of this year and was in Birmingham too. And I was like, I can see it. I wanted to learn more about how is this working here. And sometimes they're saying the very lots of big problems that they have over there, and we could not really see it in the way that we see here, because I was looking with my eyes from a person from Salvador. And this is very important to think of, because we cannot forget that we are always looking at a problem from our perspective. And if it's a problem that is so complex as this one, or I know most of you will be looking at complex problems, you need to make an effort at least to know that this is from my perspective. You cannot forget this, because then you'll be neglecting, you won't be doing a very good job. And these other perspectives, for example, India, then you can see things a little bit harder, as we know are happening in countries that it's not that many money around since the beginning, because the money were going out. So lots of the exploration comes from there and is still here, like it will occur in Nigeria, like it occur here in Brazil. And it's still like this in many places. But the thing is, we need to deal with that, right? We sometimes, when I work with my students, or sometimes I'm even doing my research, and I was like, man, what am I doing this? And it's not going to get me anywhere. It's too complicated. I'm not going to solve it. I'm going to do my maps. I work with maps a lot. And I was like, oh my God, get tired, because it seems like it's not going to take me anywhere. But at the same time, every time I go to a conference or meet other people that is working with this, I feel like, okay, we need to do this, because if you don't, it's even worse. There's nobody going to be looking at it. Nobody's going to be working on this, and then the complexity is going to be more and more far away to solve, or to be dealt. And so if it's too complex, the thing is the opposite. We need more people to work with it. We need more people working together to think of it, and how can we deal with it. And this is the kind of, and that to put some fire on it, for example, the last year, we are supposed to have census every 10 years. Brazil has a very nice census research done by our Institute of Research, National Institute. And then, but last year, because of pandemic, the 2020 pandemic and other factors, we didn't have it. So we had it last year, and we did not, for example, this is the mobility plan of Salvador. The projections were thinking that we were going to be here in 2020, almost 3 million people. And in fact, 2022, we were almost the same thing as we were in 2000. So we already decreasing. And how we deal with that, how we do mobility with this, and why did that happen? So there are some people thinking, oh, it might be because of migration to other cities, to the countryside, because we have the last decade, more than the last decade, we had lots of investments in higher educations in smaller cities. So this is good. This is not bad. It's just like all these together, and the pandemic, and then and the home office, and then whatever, the birth rate going down, and everything happening in the also cities that are close to the municipality of Salvador, but it's part of the metropolitan area, had more people living there. So these might be some reasons to this to happen, but how we deal with that, and how the mobility plan that was thinking that there were that many people going to use the transportation, is going to do now? And then you think, oh, great, there's less people, there's less traffic, less problems. Uh, kind of, because you planned for that. So you made contracts with the buses company, with the metro company that, oh, that's the amount of people that are going to be, moving around, and that's the amount of money they will be receiving, and that didn't happen. So this is chaos, chaos. Mobility, I saw that somebody else put there, but yeah, mobility is very complex for sure. For example, here, that's how they lowered. This plan is from 2017. So 17, it was already lowering the amount of people, working in transportation. And then people that were paying is even lower. And then you have, at the other hand, a lot of automobiles, increasing the number of automobiles, and a number of motorcycles too, a lot more. And then, of course, if you think, oh, wow, this is good for the industry. Now we have the BYD here, electric cars, that's cool. Yeah, that's cool. That's nice for the environment, but that does not solve the problem. That does not take automobiles and motorcycles out of the streets. That does not take people from being hit and killed in our traffic, because that's the cause of most of the deaths. Lots of deaths are in traffic, in transit. So this is a health issue for sure. No arguments about it. So yeah, there's lots of things that we need to look around and see how we solve it. Okay. So how do we think about sustainable mobility in this kind of situation, right? We need to think about bus, we need to think about metro. We also think about bicycles, but not only for tourists, because we have bicycles here by the beach, but we need to maybe active way of transportation. We also need to think of how we get, through the bottom part of the upper part. So we have Salvador and other plans, but we could have more. And I've been in Santiago de Chile, and it's fantastic. There's a lot more possibilities of going from up and down the city. And also, like I was saying before, this is so complex that we cannot think of putting a station. I don't know if you can see here, that is a metro station here. And then this woman needs to go walk all the way around and get there. That's okay. But I don't know if of course, if she go straight, it's a lot less, but the city needs that. All right, but we need to think about the people. We need to think about who is there, because it's like the complex systems you're thinking. If that unity is not doing what the whole thing wants it to do, it's not going to work. The whole thing's not going to work, and that's what happens. Sometimes you don't have micro accessibility to stations, and then people are not being attracted to use that kind of transportation because it takes too much of their time, and that's a kind of cost. It's not comfortable. There's another cost. It's not. It's hot. It's too hot. It's not safe. So all these add up to the decision of why I'm using this or that. So this is the kind of thing that we need to be looking at when we think about cities, when we think about mobility. And this is Salvador. So you might be able to see, and I'm kind of presenting a lot of things, and I'm expecting you to be, thinking of this while you're here, while you're getting to know the city too. So when well, this affects lots different fields. For example, it affects how you access services, such as public health. right? How do I get to these places where we have a health unit? So this is a study that went to the biggest cities of Brazil and says how far you are from health unit. And in this area of Salvador, for example, that's one area that we studied during COVID. It said that we had 4 health units, those 4 here, and we could get there from, green is less than 15 minutes, right? Okay, so we did a study and we were studying with people during COVID. Let me see if that's what I'm going to show next. Yeah, we did a study. We were okay. Let's see from the reality. Let's talk with people that is in the ground. We need to know how that happens over there, and how they're dealing with this. This was during COVID, right? And we had a group called Gel Combate, and we were looking from this part of the city. I don't know if you remember, but this is okay. The city center, the old center is here, okay, the upper part, and it goes all the way here, the upper part of the city, but not that old. And all this is lower part. If you go to Igreja do Senhor do Bonfim, which is a very other attractive touristic point, and Ribeira, this is here in this area, very low area of the city. If the city and the ocean rises 3 meters, it's almost everything gone. That's how low that is. So, and then on the other hand, you have very, steep and higher places on the other side. So that's where okay. So that's where the lower income population is in this area. You can see how much the density around here too. So you're studying the area and thinking, how does COVID is gonna get there, and how can we help people that are in the most vulnerable situation, and to understand what is going there and help the government to help those people. So that's kind of study that we're thinking that we could do. So we're looking at COVID, and for example, in this here is almost 1 year after the strike, the first case. First case here in Salvador, if I'm not wrong, it's March 2020, and this is February 2021, and each dot is a person that died. That's where they lived, around there. I think this map is very impressive because it's like, God, that's a lot of people, right? And that's a lot of people that were dying, and then we were thinking, how could we do better? And that was, and that's the area that we're looking at. And this is one of the most dense areas of the city. So in this Itapajipe area, the peninsula, that doesn't go. É para apontar para algum lugar? Para cá? Para lá mesmo? Obrigada. So, and then we looked at the situation while it was happening, because we had the studies before that were for lots of cities in Brazil. So now we're going to go in more deep in more detail. And for example, in this map, we were looking at the basic unit service, and that's the only one they have in the beginning. This one was built afterwards. So this is how far you get, and also this kind of simulation we did by walking in the streets, considering the street, network. And some places, for example, is not as close as it looks like, because you cannot go through here. You need to go around to get in this place. So that's another kind of thing. And then also, if we add up to it the what is close, considering how high that is and how long it takes. So that's how we built uh, these these maps, considering also how high that is. And all these here is very high, and so you could not access. Whoever is in here need to go in the other direction, because this is very not easy to get there. And so it was a difference between if you look in another perspective, if you scale up and you see other problems and how, and try to think how you solve that, so that we could think of how many people would be needing some sort of assistance to go to the unit, because these did not work, would not take people that were with COVID during weekends or at night, or even for internation, only this one. So that's a lot of people that were unassisted. And also, this is 30 minutes to walk. So how does that people get there? Take a bus? You have COVID. You should not take a bus, right? Oh, you should be walking without breath. No? How do you get there? And you get an Uber, and then you contaminate the Uber. We need some sort of assistance to make those people, get to the health assistance. So it's a problem that needs to be looked at in detail, right? So that's the kind of things that we were doing. And is that, please? Do you have a time? 12:40, okay. So, for example, this is the group that we were working, GeoCombate, and also we didn't have information. In the beginning, the COVID cases were being inside the city, and the neighborhoods were being published in the Twitter of the mayor as a picture. So we work with data. Man, I was like, are you real? I was like, oh my God. And then I get some students, they would every day get that picture digitalized and upload in our data bank, so we could do maps and see what's going on inside, because we're looking inner city, and how the city was getting contaminated. Afterwards, they published in another way, but even though we had for a long time to keep, uploading every day, going to their website and uploading it, that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. How can we get a city like that, and how can we, look how nice this auditorium is, look how nice this infrastructure of CIMATEC is, and the industries that we have here. Of course we could do that. Right? Of course. It's just a matter of wanting to do that. It's just a matter of knowing how important that is. And that's, again, sometimes we look at things very complex, very too much technological thing, but the basics, which is like making information available to everyone who wants to collaborate with you, because that's what we wanted to do, collaborate with the mayor and the municipality. It wasn't able, but sometimes it's from behind. I mean, sometimes it's supposed to be already there. Information such as where are the things that people would be looking at while they were supposed to be locked down, but they needed to go to get money they need to get food, they need to go to the pharmacy, and all these places. Sometimes we didn't have it mapped, we didn't have it available, this kind of information. And then what we did is okay, let's do a collaborative mapping, and we put together a lot of students, got in Google Street View, and we're marking each street what they have there. And so we could mark some hotspots and tell, look, these are places that might have a lot of people walking around. If you do if you want to do some block or campaign, go there. And which one of those places are close to health units? That's another strategy. Put other things there. So looking at this and looking at maps, that's how I think, and looking at the territory, looking how, because things happen somewhere. If you think about mobility, all these can help mobility of any sort of problem that happens in the space that is some sort of space related. We have a lot of technology, a lot of possibilities of working with this. I also saw that someone looks at the complexity of epidemiology. That's how it works. There's lots of determinants of the environment that defines how the health of the people influences on the health of the people. Protecting or influencing how we get the disease. And for example, here we were with some community leaders and thinking of what places would be the most vulnerable, and we built some index for the city and trying to help the municipality to help those people that were more vulnerable. There. Another huge problem behind that, because if you wanted to work with them and we needed the information from the field, from the people that were there already there, how can we communicate with them? And internet was a big thing during COVID, and that is still a big problem. There's not a lot of people that have access to internet. And many people in these vulnerable areas, they have internet because they have the school internet. They get the Wi-Fi of the school, they get the Wi-Fi of the community center, of the neighbor, of whoever is around. And those were not working. So they didn't have the internet. There were afterwards a plan of giving chips to people, but it's like the horrible, worst sort of information lockdown. It's a lockdown of information. That's not what you wanted, and that's kind of messed it up a lot more. And there was a lot of mobilization on that, but it's also another thing that doesn't make any sense for me, because if there is some sort of company or whatever that were making money during the COVID, is whoever is providing internet, because everyone needed, but it didn't happen. And a lot of people were also isolated from the digital too. And this is a problem in many ways. We need to think that if you want to solve a problem, you're here, you're getting to know Brazil, you're getting to know Salvador, and you might want to work with people from here, with the reality of Salvador, and you must know that you have another perspective. You must know that you have another perspective, and whoever is here know more about here, right? And that is very important. And sometimes we look at this in very colonized way, again and again and again, and that doesn't help anyone. Doesn't help whoever is coming to help, because we want that, and doesn't help us also, if we also think in the perspective that whoever is coming is also have all the solutions. No, we know a lot. We do know a lot. And whoever is here, but there's a problem that how can we get there? How can we reach this population? And for this project, how we can collect the information? How can we be part since the beginning? If we are in a vulnerable areas, you're a community leader, how can you get involved since the beginning in a project like this? They don't know. They don't access Symantec, right? Unless they get one or other student that might be here. and all those students, they are also in public universities, great, but that's not exactly them. So it's up to us that are doing research to think this complexity and involve everyone that is part of it. Involve whoever is the bottom of it, because there are lots of solutions. There is a very interesting talk, TED talk. I can't remember his name again. And he was comparing the solutions that come from the slums with huge solutions that we have here, like Uberizations. That in slums, a lot of people already were using motorcycles and going, and using this kind of informal mobility facility. And afterwards, this come and become this big thing. I'm not saying that Uber got the idea from the slums, but it was already there. The Airbnb, he was comparing, because many slums, you have like the lower floor is where the family lives, and then they build an upper floor either for their relatives or to rent, so they can afford to live there. So this is kind of what a B&B do too, and he's like, okay, what else, and how can achieve innovation? How can we be innovative? If we think of a problem, if we have a huge problem, it forces us to be innovative, to innovate and think different, because we have to get out. And those people are living extreme lack of many things and huge problems, very complex problems, and they're still there. They live there. They're still doing so many things. There's so many things very nice going on. And man, we need to look at that, because that's a huge box of innovation. And we are not looking at that way. And how do we help? It's not stealing it. It's just like, how can we bring that? How we can be part of it? Because being part of it and making this better is going to make us and our life and everyone's life better too. That's how we achieve other things. So that's the kind of thing that I try, and I'm always more convinced about, that we need to know this reality, these needs, these desires, this knowledge, because what we think is good doesn't mean it's good there. If we think that sidewalks, pathways, sidewalks is good, doesn't mean, maybe not, because there's no car in there. It's not supposed to be. So you don't need a sidewalk. You just need a walk path. It's just like one thing. So and then this other perspective, we only know if we talk, if we listen, if we look different, if we put ourselves in another place, if we recognize that this is our perspective and does not solve complex problems. So this is a workshop they have. I didn't participate, I just found this picture in the internet. I thought very interesting. And they show like many things that how people from favela was claiming for, and how they look at the academia. And like, we are being used, we are not, we need to be respected. Whatever you did in your research did not change our life. I didn't notice it, because it takes so long. And but my ideas, my research is so nice. It's for you and all that. Yeah, but still, no. And you go there and you ask for their time, and still, their time is precious, like yours, right? And sometimes even more, because you might have some time to expand, and their time is whatever they're going to eat next day. So and we need more respect. We need to be part of it. We need to look at this in a different way. We need to be to identify our value, our identity, and our memories and all this. So I thought it was very nice picture, and to think about that and how can we, as a university and researchers, understand and reach and address our problems. Okay. So I'm just going to go through some projects that we are being working in our some of my colleagues in my research group, and this is with the University of Twente in the Netherlands. We are part of a group that is studying 8 cities around the globe, and try to identify favelas and slums, and also think of because okay, slums, it is. What this is really, because it's different in many different places. So this is working with ER, and artificial intelligence to that, and that's interesting project also. Can you help me? Você pode passar? Não tá funcionando. I don't know if you guys know about this project. I'm not sure if there's anyone in the environmental field, but here in Brazil we have this huge project of lots of people from different universities also. Has data for every year of cover the situation of the land. So for the entire Brazil since 85. So it's almost 30 years. Obrigada. Almost 30 years. And that's how, for example, it grew. And now we had that, very drawing. Now we have very precise what we have here. And this is the professor that is working with this urbanization catalog. This is 2021 and 85, for example. So this can be done looking at images. It's very cool. It's a huge project. So they're also working with looking at water and landslides and deforestation, and some alerts also on fire. So there's a huge project, all based on open data, open knowledge, which is also very interesting. There's lots of projects being built on top of it, because you can get access to the codes and scripts and everything. So, for example, here, when you compare this to the area, so Salvador grew in 36 years the equivalent of 11 times the size of Lisbon. The other technology that we have access now also makes very complex situations be able to approach in a different way. So we have the lasers and be able to get surface models, the height of the things, and they estimate maybe the occupation, the population. We have also ajudou muito, não. Obrigada. We have drones nowadays. Also, there is a very new technology, and that we are using a lot to survey, and also with these images and the photogrammetry, we can build 3D models. Also, take a look at what happens, and if you're talking about the dynamics of some areas that are, that happens very fast. It's easy also not easy, not very easy, but it's another way to approach that in another scale of detail, right? We don't, and these makes a lot of difference because we do not depend of official data. Sometimes you can of course have the request for the opportunity to fly, and do it in combination with the community that is going to be flow. and get this kind of data. That's the area that we are working. It's epidemiological study, and with leptospirosis, it's a very endemic area, and then we see very clear, right, the valleys that we are talking about before. And I don't know if you all know about leptospirosis, a rat disease, and the bacteria can stay in the contact with the humidity and water for like 6 months and still contaminate. So it's endemic area for that. So some other projects, we're working with health agents, which is very nice also that they can put in the map the territory they are mapping. This is one of the maps that one of them did, some of them did, using this open platform too that is built in the University of Rio. These and other health projects also that were comparing perceived risk with objective risk, and also thinking about interventions that could be done. So we has a lot of financing on this, and we have the focus of working with youth people, building also an app that facilitates them to interact with these platforms that can map and make them understand better their territory. So understanding where we are and what we are doing is very important too. I'm going to pass a little bit faster, but that's some cool things too that you can use not only for research, also for fun. For example, this is like this app is an open source too, and it's like in Street View. I don't know, did anyone use that before? Mapillary? You all know Street View, right? So imagine that you can be the person that take the pictures for Street View and upload it and download it and filter and do other things also with this picture. So we thought people in the community, because for example in Street View didn't pass through those areas that they live, and they thought, oh, it would be cool if you have a Street View. Okay, so we do a Street View that you build a Street View, and with all this we teach also about what are the problems or the potentials and the nice things about the community they are at their community. And this software also, they use artificial intelligence to recognize some features, like for example vegetation, and you can filter what is vegetation in here, and then point in the path that you took pictures. And then, so because it's open and open access and open code, so there's a lot of people that is building things on top of it, and this is the kind of thing that is being built. Like, how can we use terrestrial photograph, a street level photograph, georeferenced, to recognize features and put in a map. So street signs, vegetation, whatever the computer, and you can train the computer to look at, could be done, we think. So that's what they're doing. It's interesting too, very interesting. And this is another, thank you. This is an app that was being built on top of the other one to facilitate the interface with the youth, so they are more, they'll be willing to use this and learn more about the territory, and also contributing with the research that needs more information about arbovirosis, like all the mosquitoes and all problems related with health, and also to think about interventions. There. And not only thinking that, okay, oh, this is the software, cool, there you go, use it. That doesn't happen like that, right? So we need to construct this software together. That's what this project's doing with them. There's a lot of gamification around there, also explaining how you get there or how to use it, how useful this is. But also, if you want to make improvements, how do we do that? What's the next step? So the project also is thinking how to teach these youth and people from the community to reach some municipalities, secretariats and officers, like this in the bottom here, and how to speak and how to use this map, how to use the data. Look, this data is yours. This project is yours too. This app you can use. It's for you. You're not supposed to be depending on us, but we are helping them in this process. So this is very important too. Like sometimes in the academia, and I do that, I know, but I'm always like, oh my God, I need this extra step. And sometimes it's very hard too, because many of the projects and the sponsors and the grants that we get does not allow us to put this extra, because it's not, okay, this is a grant for this, and then you cannot, the extra step. And I don't know how we do that, but we need to. We have to make this known. We have to teach. We have to consider these other things. And if you don't do it, or ask other people to be part of it, to do it also. So it's not easy, but it's just like it needs to be in our mind. Also, this with schools, there's some very nice apps. For example, this one is a story map. Have anyone ever did the story map? It's very easy to use. It's actually people from journalism that develop. It's open source too, and we're teaching here people from some youth from school how to map around the school, how hard the mobility and accessibility features they have around, and what could be done. And here, kind of going back to the beginning of my presentations, when I talk about how we built our city, and we're talking about a city that is more than 80% considered Black or city, and where we have a lot of influence from people from Africa, and we also how this reflects in our streets. So you'll be walking around, and you'll be saying, what's the name of this street? There's no Black references. Very few, very few. So this one also, we're looking at this, and also blackening the streets using this app, which is another one this is more famous. Maybe someone here know it. OpenStreetMap. There we go, some heads shaking. So OpenStreetMap is the biggest open collaborative mapping of the world. Okay, so Mapillary works with it, and we can do a lot of things on top of it. For example, the background of the map is a different visualization of what is over there in the OpenStreetMap. And this is other application on social vulnerabilities, and that we did with our group. This is not working. So at the end, if I'm talking about technology, for example, if I'm thinking about involving people and thinking about what am I doing, if I'm making it public, what I need to think of benefits and risks. For example, here was see what is in Mapillary. We did with those children and people in the community, and this is what Google Street View did. So we have a lot more in here, right? And we have other more information also sometimes when it flew with the drones, because it's updated. And we also can make it available in some open source platforms, make it, feed the OpenStreetMap. And you can think about open science is something that needs to be done, in many different ways and directions. So let me see, what time is it now? 8? Okay, so we do have some couple minutes, and I wanted you guys to take a look at those projects. And also, of course, if you have any questions about what I said and what we are doing, if you can access the internet here, can you? If you can take a look at where we are and okay, that's the idea. That's the idea. If you go to OpenStreetMap, you see a project, and we are here. You can put a name of it, of the place that we are, and you zoom, and you see what we have around. And then afterwards, you go put the place where you live, and take a look also at the map. Is that different? What kind of information is in one map or in the other map? Can you do that? And in the meantime, if you have any questions about what I presented, please feel free to ask.
First of all, thank you very much for this informative and detailed talk. I have a simple question. I'm curious how many people was involved in all of this research that you presented, because it's very, very extensive and there's so many different things covered. I imagine there must be a large team.
It's not one group. It's not one person leading research. It's like a lot of collaboration of other researchers. So, for example, the research that we do with the epidemiological ones, with the Institute of Collective Health in UFBA. For now, for example, this research, they have almost 40 people working in that one. So that's a big one. And we help with the mapping and support this kind of action. Other researchers, we have like the youth map groups that we do more the trainings, and on these open platforms, you use working with communities and different parts, and also small workshops. For this group, we might have like 20 people, which is like professors and students, different approaches of the projects too. So yeah, and other professors might have other groups they are connected to. So, and the Mapbiomas project is one professor that is conducting the urban part, but it's huge. It's like, I would say hundreds of people working on that. So
Okay, thank
like
you.
a network.
Thank you for the answer.
No
Any
problem.
more questions? Do online people have any questions?
I do have one.
I don't have any question.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I thought that the others wanted to ask something, but if not, I'm gonna go with mine. So thank you very much for your very interesting talk. You talked about many, many things here. I was thinking about the first part of your talk when you were talking about mobility, and it came to my mind the centralized urban mobility plans versus decentralized mobility urban mobility plans, and what are your thoughts about which is better, or if you have any example of a successful implementation of those kind of different plans in different cities, and which are the challenges that they are facing, and so on.
Can you repeat just the first part of the question? Different in plans? Is that
like the difference between centralized urban mobility plans versus decentralized? Because in Spain, where I come from, for instance, they have a very centralized vision of urban mobility, and sometimes that leads to things that makes no sense at all, like having trains that go empty from cities to cities whatsoever. But at the same time, it gives a more global vision of the needs of a country. And I don't know, since Brazil is so big as well, maybe, I don't know, which are your thoughts about this?
Okay, I got it. it's a huge problem that because most of mobility plans, you're right, they are centralized. I was now at the at Birmingham, at the University of Birmingham. They're huge on railway, and also looking at all the investments and everything that goes not only in UK but also in Africa, where they are also helping people over there. Even in these places, you have up down plans, right? And then you think of the huge thing and how do you connect the country or the continent, and sometimes it feels very obvious that we need to go this way because it's huge and people from the bottom is not going to be able to. That's the kind of explanation, right, that we hear, that people from the bottom is not going to be able to think the big picture. But I do not have examples, I myself, because this is like it's a sideway field of work, and I have some colleagues that are more in mobility. But I would say, based on the interactions that I had with Professor Marcelo Blumenfeld, and some professors that I see here in Bahia working in this, that this needs to change. That you're right. We need to have the participation bottom up too, like the insurgent, because the insurgent mobility happens, right? We call insurgent cartography, insurgent planning, that comes from there. That doesn't respect what is in top down because it doesn't affect the life, doesn't solve the problem. So if we need to go, and I do agree that of course we need to think top down also, but also in the other way. So I'm sorry, I don't have an example to say, but I do agree with you, and I do agree that is something that I see people around working and looking in a different way and trying to make it different. So hopefully we can do that.
Thank you very much.
It's harder, right? It's a lot harder. Democracy is harder.
Right.
But that's how it works better.
But it's worthy at the same time.
I agree.
Any more questions?
If there's any questions, I'd like also to hear you guys, what your perceptions. What did you get to visit the map where we are and the map of OpenStreetMap in another place? So is that different? Who did reach and saw or get to know the project, the map? No one on a stalk? Everyone is like very, you're not shy. Come on. I'm going to make more specific questions. For example, is the map where you're from more populated than the map we are here? A lot more? What kind of information you see in the map where you come from that is not in the map that we are from this area? Can you tell me one? Because sometimes you see the map, it's a lot of things there, and can you recognize something? Do you understand my question?
I'm from Bahia, so it's not so far from here, but I'm from the small town called Jacobina. I don't know if you know. So I was comparing Jacobina map with Salvador map and so on. And
it's the opposite, probably.
Yeah. But something that I was really happy is that the open map is more precise than Google Map, because there are some problems with names of streets in Jacobina in Google Maps. There is also some green areas that are not identified as such in Google Maps that they are correctly identified in Open Maps map. Nice. And I think it is really nice to see that we have this open project that has better data in a sense than the most famous one that it is Google Maps. So it's similar. We have similarities because it's the same state, but we have huge differences
Yeah.
comparing Salvador with Jacobina. And in Jacobina specifically, we have this advantage of using open maps. It's more precise. It's really nice.
That's really interesting because the thing is that, for example, in small cities, many times do not have many information. But if you have a person that lives there that is a contributor is a member used to go there and map in OpenStreetMap, and you have these kind of things. So you might have someone over there and that is, mapping the area and is making this useful. And this information you can download, you can open, for me that works with maps, it's great.
That's nice. It just came to my mind that we do have a geography course in Jacobina, so maybe
well,
they are
that
working
might
with
be-
this.
See, that might be a reason. And just to explain to you this project, any one of you can map. Anyone can map. There is like if you're in the computer, in the top of the computer, you can see like ID, and if you make an account, and you go and you enter as an editor, and then you're like, oh, but then, oh, if anyone can map, I can do anything. I can, screw up the map, make anything. Yes, you can, but there are a lot of things. It's open since the beginning, and there's so many people working in this. The community is so huge that they have also lots of different ways of detecting this kind of user. So there are automatic detections that if you draw a line on the top of buildings saying that this is because you need to say what the line is a street, automatically it's going to be saying, okay, this is not good. This is shit. Come on. So, and if you keep doing this, you're not going to be able to do it anymore, and then your account's going to be blocked or whatever. And there are different ways also, whatever you put there also makes validation, and then other people can validate. There's another I can be talking about that for entire night. There's another, it's called Humanitarian OpenStreetMap Team. They form groups. And for example, nowadays we had a huge flooding in the south of Brazil, Rio Grande do Sul, and they have teams that were mapping what the areas that were flooded. And what do you still have? And if you have new images, you can know what buildings are still up, what kind of problems of the streets that have problems, because you can also put some information. But sometimes this information, some municipalities doesn't have it, or Google have it, but come on, you cannot download it from Google, right? You have to do other things. So it's very, very interesting. And because there's so many people, it's an open thing. So there's a lot of people looking at it and doing stuff on top of it. What time is that now?
It's 1:22. And
Okay.
we do have one more comment/question here. I'm not sure yet.
About your question, like difference between Salvador and like some other place. So I can see that like Salvador almost don't have like sidewalks and like pedestrian roads, like this red roads, like where people can walk. And also Salvador have like a lot of closed roads, like private roads, which are like not there is a road, but it's not accessible for like general public. So it's also different.
Okay, yeah. Some of information in these also they are on tags or like attribute of geometry. So you need to have like a thematic map to show this kind of attribute. But yeah, we do have many places these kind of problems. If you see the city, remember that map that I see, we'll be walking at the city, you'll be, okay, what part of the city am I? Am I close to the ocean? You'll be seeing sidewalks, curbs, everything. Very cute, very, beautiful. But some other parts of the city, you see that kind of problem. Lots of places does not have sidewalks and have problems with accessibility. All right. And also, I invite you to go afterwards if you want the other app also. And you can find easy ways to some tutorials how to add up things in there. How and the other one that is you can take pictures and do your own street view and upload the pictures, and everyone can use. I think those are very, very interesting also when you collaborate with community. And just to finish my presentation, I think that these kind of alternatives of what we do is very nice to think, how can we give something that is more right away, short time period for who we're working with, and sometimes being able to look at the area and being able to have this online and to, of course, learn to do that, but also to look at the area with another potential being the map is something that brings information and also satisfaction and also sense of, oh, I'm in the world, I'm part of it. I'm in the map. Yeah, lots of things that we can, discuss around this, especially from the geography. But there's a last slide just to wrap it up. Último slide. There you go. So what I'm saying is that we were talking, we're seeing Salvador as a complex city. Important to recognize this complexity, either city, whatever area you're working at. Sorry about the mistakes. Think together about possibilities. Think also that high technology that we are working is not only restricted to whoever is high in the society. We do, and we also need these to reach different scales, different proposals, different areas, and also it's very useful for to be in the hands of the most vulnerable population. So if you're thinking about something that you can do, and you can think of something that you can do with those that need the most, that's you be doing a lot more. And the idea of having the slum dwelling being part of this digital revolution, smart cities, sustainable projects, innovative solutions is the idea of being part of a significant change. So that's the motivation of my work and how we work and how complex the cities are, and the idea of have to be looking at those that are more vulnerable. So yeah, thank you very much for everything. There's another slide. Yeah, so if you need to contact me, we also have like a postgrad program. We have it's open now for new PhD and master students. So feel free to advertise and show your friends or whoever wants to be around, contact us. Thank you.
Thank you, Patricia, once again. And I would once again like to ask if there are any more questions, specifically the online crowd, if they have any questions anymore.
I just would like to thank you for making this material accessible to all of us. Although it was a bit hard for those of us who are following online, but we still appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Everyone is hungry.
Okay, let's thank Patricia once again and go to eat.
Thank you.